Okay, this is just a quick biography of Benedictus de Spinoza uh, from an app which is the Oxford Dictionary of Philosophy, I believe, that I bought for my Android phone, which you can get at Google Play. So, Benedictus de Spinoza was born in 1632, lived until 1677. Dutch Jewish rationalist Baruch, or Benedict de Spinoza, was born in Amsterdam into a distinguished Jewish family. Exiled from Spain and living in a relative religious freedom of the Netherlands, he attended Jewish school and became learned on the work of Jewish and Arabic theologians. One of his teachers was a rabbi, Manasseh ben Israel, a distinguished liberal figure of the time. However, contact with dissident Christian movements and with the scientific and philosophical thought of Descartes led Spinoza to distance himself from Orthodox life. And in 1656 he was deemed a heretic, cast out of the synagogue and cursed with the comprehensive anathema wherewith Joshua anathematized Jericho, of which one clause alone caused for him to be cursed with all the curses of the firmament, so they didn't really get on. For a short time, Spinoza was exiled from Amsterdam, but he returned and began a life supporting himself by grinding lenses and teaching. During this period, he wrote the short treatise on God, man, and his well-being, written in Latin but surviving in Dutch, translated in 1883. In 1660 he moved to the country and began composing the Renati Descartes Principiorum Philosophicae, something like that. The Principles of Descartes' Philosophy, anyway. A geometrically structured exposition of the philosophical system of Descartes. This was published in 1663. Now living in Voorburg, Spinoza became acquainted with Jan de Witt, I think that would be, principal focus of opposition to the House of Orange. This led in 1670 to Tractatus Theologico-Politicus, political treatise, a work whose advocacy of tolerance and peace caused it to be condemned by the Reformed Church in 1673 and banned the following year. At this time Spinoza moved to The Hague, where he lived with great frugality on a small pension, working on the ethics and a grammar of Hebrew. In 1672, Spinoza undertook a small diplomatic mission to the invading French army, but on his return was under some suspicion as a spy, and narrowly escaped being killed by the mob, as De Witt had been before him. By now a recognised figure, he refused offers of various posts and lived out his remaining years in the same frugal state, writing and corresponding. He abandoned his original intention of publishing the Ethics, believing that it would simply generate controversy and rancour. Spinoza's final publication was Tractatus De Intellectus Emendatione, published in the year of his death. I've got that completely wrong. Treatise on the improvement of the intellect, anyway. Published in 1883. He died of fasciitis, possibly brought on by his trade as a lens grinder. There remains numerous testimonies to his simplicity, virtue, charm, and courage. The central themes of ethics are developed in 4 parts of the book. These concern first God, then nature and the origin of the mind, the origin and nature of the emotions, and human servitude and the strength of the emotions. The stage is set by acceptance of a basic rationalist presumption that the nature of the world is transparent to the intellect, so that relations of dependence among ideas reflect or are perhaps identical with relations of dependence among events and states in nature. Substance being conceived as that which is self-dependent. There follows the ontological argument for the existence of God as the one necessary being, but not distinct from the world. For there is only one substance, any other substance would owe its existence to God, and therefore not be self-dependent. Rather, God is immanent in the world, and individual things are themselves modes or modifications of God. The one reality is God or nature. This God is naturally rather removed from God of simple religious faith, and while Spinoza's crystalline remark that whoever loves God cannot strive that God should love him in return has something subsequently been spoken to many thinkers. In his own time, the accusation of atheism constantly hung over him. Spinoza's monism extends to mind and matter. Each is different characteristic or way of rationally appreciating the essence of the same one eternal reality. Like Descartes, Spinoza believed that it is the intellect rather than the senses that discloses the essential nature of things. A complete and adequate idea of God shows that he has two attributes he can be conceived under the heading of extension or under that of thought. In other words, God or reality can be conceived in these two incommensurable ways, and each discloses an attribute or part of his essence. A problem in interpreting Spinoza is that God is supposed to have infinitely many attributes, although only these two are found. Understanding aims to increase our knowledge of God or the universe by discovering the way in which it makes up a closed system, self-sufficient and completely unified, in which everything that happens is necessary and nothing could be otherwise than it is.